That, esteemed colleagues, is precisely why we must never underestimate the tenacity of death itself, declared Dr. Zixnack, his tentacles gesturing wildly as he addressed the gathering of alien scholars. The audience, composed of beings with an array of eyes, limbs, and iridescent skin tones, shifted uncomfortably. Some clicked their mandibles nervously, others fluttered their feathers, and a few in the back row grew visibly more green. Well, more green than they already were. Dr. Gloop, a gelatinous creature with translucent, shimmering layers and floating internal organs, extended a wobbly pseudopod. Surely, Dr. Zixnack, you're embellishing for dramatic effect. The likelihood of Deathworld DNA reanimating is infinitesimally small. It's simply improbable, Gloop argued, his voice a deep, resonant gurgle. Zixnack's eye stalks rotated to focus squarely on the skeptical blob. Ah, improbable, you say? Zixnack chuckled. I might have agreed with you. Before the event, a collective gasp rippled through the audience, tension palpable in the air. Every being present knew exactly what he referred to. The incident was the stuff of whispered legends, too dangerous to discuss openly. Now then, Zixnack continued, his compound eyes glinting mischievously. Who here wants to know how a simple Terran DNA sample nearly brought our entire research station to ruin? The crowd leaned forward, a symphony of clicks, chirps, and gurgles filling the air. Even Dr. Gloop's gelatinous body quivered with interest. Very well, Zixnack said, reclining in his hover chair. Let me tell you how it all began on what should have been an uneventful day in our xenobiology lab. The pristine white laboratory gleamed as Dr. Zixnack hovered into the room, humming softly to himself. His assistant, a spindly, four-armed centon named Kix, was already busy, meticulously labeling a set of glowing vials. Morning, Kix, Zixnack said cheerfully. I trust everything is ready for today's experiments? Kix's antennae flicked in acknowledgement. Yes, doctor. Everything is in place, including the special sample. Zixnack's eyes brightened with anticipation. Ah, splendid. Let's not waste any time. With a buzz of excitement, the pair set to work, Zixnack handling each delicate specimen with precision. Today was no ordinary day. Their prize was a fresh DNA sample from a Terran, a species infamous across the galaxy for their resilience and survival instincts on their hostile home planet. Now, Kix, Zixnack began as he carefully maneuvered the sample with microforceps. We must be extremely cautious with this. Terran DNA is notoriously resilient. Kix nodded, his face serious. Understood, doctor. I've reviewed the safety protocols twice. Good. Zixnack muttered, peering into the high-powered microscope. His tentacles stiffened as he observed the sample. Wait, what is this? This is remarkable. Almost as if Kix leaned in, his curiosity piqued. What is it, doctor? Zixnack's tentacles trembled as he stared deeper into the microscope, his excitement barely contained. I can't believe it. The cells look like they're moving, Kix murmured, his voice filled with disbelief. Suddenly, the sample on the slide began to shift and pulse. Both scientists jumped back, eyes wide with horror, as a grotesque mass started to take shape before them. By the stars, Zixnack exclaimed. It's growing. Kix's four hands shot to his face in sheer panic. That's impossible. It's just a DNA sample. The writhing blob kept expanding, gradually forming a rough humanoid outline. In moments, it had reached the size of a small rodent, and it was still growing. Engage quarantine measures, Zixnack yelled, panic creeping into his voice. Kix darted to the control panel, fingers flying across the controls. Instantly, a shimmering barrier appeared around the rapidly expanding creature. We've got to inform the station, Zixnack said, his voice shaky. This is beyond anything we've ever seen. A Terran DNA sample, coming to life, as if in response to his words, the creature, now as large as a Terran house cat, turned what resembled a head toward them. Two glowing red eyes blinked into existence, locking onto the terrified scientists with a menacing stare. Oh no, Kix whispered in terror. What have we unleashed? And that, my esteemed colleagues, Dr. Zixnack said to the captivated crowd before him, was just the beginning of our nightmare. Dr. Gloop, his gelatinous body jiggling with unease, protested, but this defies everything we know. DNA can't just come alive. Zixnack shot him a severe look. Dr. Gloop, I swear on every star in the galaxy, this is the truth. Terran DNA doesn't follow the rules we know. A hesitant voice called out from the back of the room. What happened next? Zixnack's eyes gleamed. Well, since you ask, back in the lab, the creature's growth was accelerating. quickly outgrew the containment field. Sirens echoed across the station as Zixnack and Kix bolted from the lab, sealing the blast doors behind them. "We're doomed," Kix cried, wringing all four of his hands in despair. "The entire scientific community will laugh us off the galactic map." Zixnack's tentacles lashed in frustration. "Forget our reputations. If we don't stop this thing, it'll destroy the station." A massive crash sounded from behind the sealed doors, metal groaning under the strain. The doors buckled as something enormous pushed against them. "How big has it gotten?" Kix whispered, his voice trembling. Before Zixnack could answer, the blast doors exploded outward with a shriek of tearing steel. Standing in the doorway was a towering figure, easily 7 feet tall, muscular beyond belief, with glowing red eyes that swept over the stunned scientists. Then, in a deep, rumbling voice that vibrated through the floor, it spoke. "Hey, nerds, anyone got a sandwich? Growing from a DNA sample really works up an appetite." Zixnack and Kix exchanged stunned glances. This definitely wasn't in any of their xenobiology training. What? How?" Zixnack stammered, his usual sharp intellect failing him. The creature flashed a wide grin, revealing rows of unsettlingly sharp teeth. "Seriously, Doc? You've never seen a guy spontaneously appear from a DNA sample? And here I thought you science types were supposed to know everything." Kix, momentarily forgetting his fear in the face of such mind-boggling impossibility, managed to speak. "But that's not how DNA works. You can't just grow a full-grown adult from a microscopic sample." The Terran shrugged his massive shoulders nonchalantly. "Yeah, well, guess my DNA didn't get the memo. Now, about that sandwich." Before anyone could respond, the station's intercom crackled to life. "Attention, all personnel. This is not a drill. We have a code beige. I repeat, a code beige. This is..." The announcement was abruptly cut off, replaced by the sounds of chaos and distant screaming. The creature tilted its head, looking amused. "Code beige? Huh? Let me guess. That's your fancy term for, oh no, a Deathworlder just came to life from a DNA sample and now we're totally doomed, right?" Zixnack, finally managing to pull himself together, straightened up to his full height, which still only brought him level with the creature's chest. "Now, listen here, you biological anomaly. I demand to know what you are and how you came into existence," Zixnack shouted, his voice trembling with both fear and authority. The creature's grin widened even further. "Well, since you asked so politely, the name's Rex. As for how I got here, let's just say your little DNA sample had some ambitious plans. You know how you science types are always going on about junk DNA? And how humans have all these dormant genes from their evolutionary past." Zixnack and Kix, still in shock, nodded wordlessly. "Yeah, well, turns out that junk isn't so useless after all. It's more like a backup blueprint on how to build a perfect human in case of emergencies. And being trapped in a petri dish definitely qualifies as an emergency." Rex's eyes sparkled mischievously. Before either scientist could process the gravity of what they'd just heard, the sound of rushing footsteps echoed down the hallway. A squad of security drones rounded the corner, their weapons immediately trained on Rex. "Halt! Unidentified life form," the lead drone commanded in a mechanical buzz. "You are in violation of approximately 73 station bylaws and at least 12 natural laws. Surrender immediately or face destruction." Rex cracked his knuckles, a manic gleam lighting up his eyes. "Oh, this is gonna be fun. You guys might want to take cover. Things are about to get messy." Zixnack and Kix dove behind a nearby console as Rex let out an excited yell, charging the security drones head-on. Chaos erupted in the corridor, laser blasts, exploding drones, and the unmistakable sound of Terran laughter filled the air. Dr. Zixnack paused his retelling, his tentacles twitching as if reliving the scene. The audience sat in stunned silence, hanging on his every word. "I trust you're starting to grasp the seriousness of our situation," he continued gravely. "We had unknowingly created a being with all the raw physical capabilities of a Terran Deathworlder, but without the usual social conditioning or restraint their kind typically possess." Dr. Glup, who had been slowly deflating throughout the story, managed to form enough of a mouth to ask, "But surely the security forces managed to stop him, right?" Zixnack let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Oh, if only it were that simple, Dr. Glup." He and Kix cautiously peeked around the corner of the corridor. What greeted them was absolute devastation. Piles of smoldering, twisted metal littered the floor, the remains of the station's drones. And there, standing in the center of it all, was Rex, looking like he'd just finished an invigorating workout rather than a battle to the death. "Phew!" Rex exclaimed, casually brushing bits of debris from his shoulders. "Now that was a warm-up. So what's next, Docs? Please tell me you've got some more toys for me to break." Zixnack felt his heart sink as he surveyed the wreckage. This situation was spiraling out of control faster than he could comprehend. He needed to figure out a way to stop this creature before Rex reduced the entire station to rubble. But how do you stop a being that shouldn't even exist in the first place? Kix, surprisingly, was the first to regain his composure. Mr. Rex, sir," he stammered. "Maybe you'd be interested in a tour of our recreational facilities? We have an amazing zero-gravity relaxation chamber that a being of your unique nature might enjoy." Rex's eyes lit up. Zero gravity? Huh? Now that sounds like my kind of fun. "Lead the way, Stretch." Kix, a bit shaky but determined, began to guide Rex down the corridor, while Zixnack frantically searched his mind for a solution. There had to be a way to neutralize this threat without resorting to force. After all, Rex was their creation. Destroying such a valuable subject went against every scientific instinct Zixnack had. Then an idea hit him. It was dangerous, possibly catastrophic, and violated every safety protocol in existence. But in a situation this dire, it was just what they needed. "Wait!" Zixnack called out, causing both Kix and Rex to stop in their tracks. "Before we head to the relaxation chamber, there's something else I think you might find even more interesting." Rex turned, raising an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? What could be better than zero gravity?" Zixnack stood tall, doing his best to look like a serious, trustworthy scientist. "The quantum probability drive, of course. It's the core of our station, capable of bending spacetime itself. A being like you would probably find it intriguing." For a moment, Rex's expression was unreadable, but then a slow grin spread across his face. Well, now you're talking my language. Lead the way, document." As they ventured deeper into the station, alarms still blaring and staff scrambling to avoid the walking disaster in their midst, Zixnack felt a stab of guilt. What he was planning could be catastrophic, not just for Rex, but for everyone aboard the station. Still, desperate situations called for extreme solutions, and if there was one thing Deathworlders had taught the galaxy, it was that sometimes you fight the impossible with the improbable. At last, they arrived at an enormous set of doors plastered with warning signs in a dozen different languages. Zixnack carefully entered a sequence of codes, and with a soft hiss, the doors opened to reveal a vast chamber dominated by a swirling vortex of energy. The vortex twisted and pulsed, its chaotic patterns impossible to fully comprehend. Monitoring consoles lined the walls, their screens filled with data that could make most beings' heads spin. Rex whistled in admiration. "Now that is one heck of a lava lamp. So what's it do?" Zixnack cleared his throat, suddenly nervous. "The quantum probability drive. It allows us to manipulate the likelihood of events occurring. In essence, we can alter the very fabric of reality itself, within certain limits," Zixnack explained, his voice trembling slightly. Rex's eyes gleamed, a dangerous mix of curiosity and hunger. "Oh really? And just how limited are we talking?" Zixnack swallowed hard. "Theoretically, with enough power, one could alter probability on a galactic scale. We're talking rewriting history, changing the fundamental constants of the universe. That sort of thing." Rex's grin stretched into something truly terrifying. "Is that so? Well, I say we crank this bad boy up and see just how far we can go." Before Zixnack or Kix could stop him, Rex lunged toward the controls and began wildly adjusting them. The soft hum of the vortex escalated into a deafening roar, alarms blaring in warning as the vortex at the center of the room swelled, its chaotic patterns spiraling out of control. "No!" Zixnack shouted, panic rising in his voice. "You have no idea what you're tampering with. You could unravel the fabric of spacetime." Rex turned toward them, his eyes now blazing with an unnatural glow that made their previous red gleam seem mild in comparison. "Exactly, document. And isn't that what science is all about? Pushing the limits, venturing into the unknown, and, every now and then, tearing holes in the spacetime continuum." As the vortex grew larger, its swirling energy distorting the very air around them, reality itself began to warp and ripple. Kix let out a pitiful, high-pitched whine, curling into a ball and hugging himself with all four arms. But Zixnack, against all odds, found a hidden well of courage within himself. He straightened, lifting himself to his full height, still only reaching Rex's chest, and fixed the creature with the sternest glare he could muster. "Rex," he said, his voice steady now, You may think you're pushing boundaries, but you're playing with forces far beyond your understanding. This isn't just about science. It's about the survival of everything. Now listen here, you overgrown DNA experiment. Zix-Nak bellowed, struggling to be heard over the blaring alarms and the roar of the expanding vortex. I may have been responsible for your creation, but I will not stand by and watch you destroy everything we've worked for. Rex paused mid-button push, turning to face the furious scientist. Amusement flickered in his eyes, and was that respect? Well, Rex rumbled, his voice low and almost impressed. Looks like the squids got some backbone after all. All right, tentacles, you've got my attention. So what's your brilliant plan to fix this little mess? Zix-Nak's mind raced, panic thoughts tumbling over one another. He hadn't expected to get this far. Well, we could... Then, like a bolt of lightning, inspiration struck. The hibernation chambers. We use them for long-distance space travel. They might be able to contain your unique biological structure. Rex stroked his chin thoughtfully. Hibernation, huh? Like a long science nap? You know what? That actually sounds pretty tempting. Growing a whole body in 10 minutes really takes it out of you. A little shut I might be just what I need. Kix, who had slowly been uncurling from his protective ball, perked up. Wait, you're saying you'll go willingly? Rex shrugged his enormous shoulders. Sure. Why not? But I've got one condition. Zix-Nak eyed him cautiously. And what would that be? When you wake me up, and let's be honest, you science types can never leave well enough alone. I want some real fun. I'm talking an intergalactic road trip, VIP tour of the strangest corners of the universe. Deal? Zix-Nak and Kix exchanged glances. Considering the alternative of complete space-time annihilation, it seemed like a small price to pay. Deal. Zix-Nak said firmly, extending a tentacle. Rex grinned, shaking the tentacle with his massive hand, nearly swallowing it whole. All right, lead me to my sci-fi coffin. Let's get this over with. As they led Rex through the chaos of malfunctioning equipment and frantic station personnel, Zix-Nak couldn't help but reflect on the absurdity of the situation. Here he was, escorting a being that defied the very laws of biology, who had almost destroyed the entire station, to, of all things, take a nap. At last, they arrived at the hibernation bay. Rows upon rows of sleek pods lined the walls, each designed to keep its occupant in perfect stasis for centuries if necessary. Not bad, Rex said, eyeing the pods with approval. So which one's mine? Please tell me it's the deluxe model with a memory foam mattress and a dream simulator. Kix, who had been fiddling with the control panel, glanced up, puzzled. No, these are just standard issue pods. No luxury features. I'm afraid. Rex's face fell. Man, you guys really need to step up your game. How do you expect to attract high-end intergalactic travelers with this budget setup? Zix-Nak felt his patience wearing thin. Just get in the pod, please. We'll consider upgrades for your next visit, Zix-Nak said, trying to keep his frustration in check. Fine. Rex grumbled playfully as he lumbered toward the pod, which seemed ridiculously small next to his massive frame. You sure this thing's gonna fit me? I'm not exactly built like you noodle-armed squids. Kix quickly tapped a few buttons, and the pod adjusted itself, expanding to accommodate Rex's bulkier Terran physique. Our technology is adaptable, he explained. It should handle your unique biology just fine. Rex nodded, impressed. Not bad. All right, time to hit the cosmic snooze button. But remember our deal. When I wake up, I expect one epic welcome back party. As Rex clambered into the pod, Zix-Nak felt a wave of both relief and unease. They had averted disaster for now, but what would happen when they inevitably had to wake this being again? The pod's lid began to close, and Rex gave them a casual salute. Sweet dreams, nerds. Don't get into too much trouble while I'm out. Actually, scratch that. Get into all the trouble and save the best stories for me when I wake up. With a soft hiss, the pod sealed, and moments later the readout indicated that Rex had entered full stasis. Zix-Nak and Kix stood there in silence, staring at the pod, the weight of what had just transpired sinking in. After a long pause, Kix broke the silence. So, what do we tell the ethics committee? Zix-Nak groaned, closing all his eyes at once. Oh, stars above. The paperwork for this is going to be a nightmare. In the present, Dr. Zix-Nak surveyed the captivated audience before him. Every being in the auditorium was silent, their faces a mixture of horror, fascination, and disbelief. And that, my esteemed colleagues, Zix-Nak concluded, is why we must exercise the utmost caution when dealing with Deathworlder DNA. A simple sample can, under the right conditions, turn into something capable of bending the very laws of reality. Dr. Glup, who had slowly been sinking in his seat throughout the story, finally gathered enough courage to speak. But But surely this Rex is safely contained? There's no chance of a repeat performance, right? Zix-Nak's tentacles twitched in what might have been a shrug. Who can say? The hibernation pod's readings have stayed stable, but given what we've seen of Terran resilience and adaptability, well, let's just say I wouldn't be shocked if Rex is in there right now dreaming up new ways to reshape reality. A nervous ripple of laughter ran through the crowd, and more than a few scientists glanced warily at the exits, as though expecting the chaos-wielding Rex to come crashing through at any moment. Now, Zix-Nak said, attempting to calm the room. There's no need for alarm. We've implemented far stricter safety measures, and the chances of another incident like this happening again are astronomically low. However, Zix-Nak continued, his tone becoming more somber. This experience has imparted a profound lesson about life, the universe, and everything in between. He paused for dramatic effect, his eye stalks sweeping across the auditorium. We must never assume we completely understand the forces we're working with. The universe is vast, mysterious, and often far more intricate than our limited minds can fathom. And sometimes, it throws us a curveball just to remind us to stay vigilant. As the audience began to disperse, buzzing with excitement and curiosity, Dr. Gloop slowly oozed his way toward the podium. I must admit, Dr. Zix-Nak, your story was enlightening, but surely there must be a rational explanation for what occurred. Perhaps a containment breach from another experiment, or a malfunction in the quantum probability drive. Zix-Nak turned all four of his eyes on the gelatinous scientist, his gaze steady. My dear Dr. Gloop, if there's one thing I've learned in all my years of research, it's that the universe doesn't owe us rational explanations. Sometimes, the most irrational and improbable events are the ones that push our understanding to new heights. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a low whisper. And who's to say what's rational when we're dealing with beings from a planet that, by all accounts, shouldn't even be able to support life? The Terrans have a saying, reality is stranger than fiction. After meeting Rex, I think they might be onto something. Dr. Gloop quivered, his gelatinous form rippling in thought. I suppose you're right. Still, the implications of what you've experienced are unsettling, to say the least. Zix-Nak nodded. Unsettling, yes, but that's the beauty of science, isn't it? Every new discovery, no matter how unsettling or bizarre, opens up a whole new set of questions waiting to be explored. As the two scientists continued their conversation, neither noticed the small, seemingly unremarkable container tucked away in a forgotten corner of the auditorium. Inside it, a tiny sample of Terran skin cells, shed by Rex during his brief rampage, lay dormant, or so it seemed. If one looked very closely, they might have noticed those cells beginning to twitch ever so slightly. Meanwhile, thousands of light years away, in a classified facility buried deep beneath Earth's surface, a group of human scientists huddled around a computer screen, their eyes glued to the live feed from hidden cameras within the alien research station. Well, I'll be damned, one of them muttered, shaking her head in amazement. Project Pandora's box was a success after all. Another scientist, an older man with wild gray hair, broke into a manic grin. And this is only the beginning. Of course it was, the wild-haired scientist exclaimed, his voice brimming with excitement. I've been telling you all along that weaponizing so-called junk DNA was possible. The possibilities are endless. We could seed sleeper agents throughout the galaxy, ready to activate whenever we need them. Another scientist, visibly uncomfortable, nervously cleared his throat. But sir, the ethical implications are overwhelming. Not to mention the potential diplomatic disaster if the galactic community ever finds out. The older man waved a dismissive hand. Ethics? Diplomacy? Please, we're talking about the survival of our species. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and we need every edge we can get. His eyes returned to the screen, where Dr. Zix-Nak was wrapping up his presentation. A slow, dangerous smile crept across his face. And let's be real, who says we're the only ones playing this game? I'd bet good money that every spacefaring race out there has their own secret projects. We're just leveling the playing field. As the team of human scientists continued to argue over the potential risks and rewards of their shadowy project, no one paid any attention to the small potted plant sitting unobtrusively in the corner of the lab. Its leaves rustled faintly, though the air in the underground facility was still. And if someone had looked closely, very closely, they might have noticed those leaves subtly shifting, rearranging themselves into the unmistakable form of a tiny, leafy version of Dr. Zix-Nak. The game, it seemed, was far from over. It had only just begun.